So welcome to this topic on Blender. Now Blender is a 3D design software where you can create all sorts of things like CGI, 3D designs, animation, things like that. And here's a few things on the screen that we're going to be doing this term. Firstly, we're going to be making a Rubik's Cube. Following that, we're going to be creating an animation with some dice. These are our basic 3D designs that we're going to be doing. Then we're going to have a little look at creating a room environment and looking at some fluid simulations. Looks quite impressive, but it's very simple. Following that, we're going to look at creating our own characters and creating or using cloth simulations to get some more realism into clothing. So there's some of the things that we're going to be doing in Blender. So Blender, you can open by going to the Start menu down here, looking under B and opening up Blender. Now what you'll see is when it opens, there'll be a box in the middle here with all your recent files and things like that. And all we need to do is just click over here so we've got an open file to work with. I'm just going to display the keys I'm using so you can see. So I just pressed N, so that shows it there. So if you're ever confused about anything that I click, just look down there, you'll be able to see what I did with the mouse. First things first though, how do we move things about? Well, to move things about, you just left click on any of these three arrows and then you can move it along a specific axis. Now this is the green axis, which is the Y axis. You'll see down here, green, Y. If I move this one, it's the X axis, and I move this one, it's the Z axis. I can just drag with the arrows. The other way I can move is if you look at the keys down here, if I press G, which stands for grab, I can move it around as well. If I just press G, it's going to move around in any direction. I don't really know where that's moving. So what I need to do is press either X, Y, or Z following that, and it will actually move just constrained to that axis. So that's the first thing, moving around a 3D object on our viewpoint. So viewport. Next thing. So we've got one in there, but we want to put some more things in. So let's move this out of the way. On the left hand side, you've got a toolbar and it's got various things. We want to go on to create, and there's all these different things that we can create. They're just basic meshes, primitive meshes that we can use to make different things with. So if I press UV sphere, you'll see it creates a sphere and I can move that around. An icosphere, so this one's made with triangles rather than squares. So you can make them, but at the moment they're all turning up just in the middle, which is where this target is. If I left click elsewhere on the screen, you'll see that target moves. And that target is where any new primitive meshes are put in. If I then go to do a cone, that one is there. Finally, I'm going to do a torus and a monkey. Now would be a good time to pause the video, have a go at getting these different things in and moving them around. So now you've got these in here. There's quite a lot of different meshes in here that we don't really need. We need to learn how to select them and delete them. Well, to select a mesh, you need to right click on it and then press the delete key. Now it's not the backspace key. If you press backspace, and you'll see down the bottom left it says backspace, nothing happens. Instead, I need to press the delete key and then OK, or delete and enter. And it will delete any of the ones we don't want. And I'm just going to leave the cube here. There are two other main things that we can do with this cube, which is scale it, which makes it bigger or smaller, or rotate it, which is spin it around. Firstly, we'll look at scaling. Easiest way to scale is by pressing S. So if I press S, you'll notice if I move the mouse away and closer to that yellow dot in the middle, it gets larger or smaller. That's the origin of this object. Left click when I'm happy with the size and it will save the size. I can also scale it in specific directions. So if I want to change the height of it, which is the up and down, which is the Z axis. So I press S for scale and then Z for up and down and move the mouse closer to the point, it gets shorter. Further away, it gets taller. If I want to change the y-axis, so left and right from our view, S for scale and then Y, move it closer, it gets thinner. I want to do the X, S and then X. There we go. And that is us scaling our shape along different axes. Of course, you don't have to scale it along an individual axis if you just want to make it bigger or smaller. But normally you'll want to be doing something like a cube into those different directions. If it is something like the monkey or the sphere, you probably don't necessarily want to do it on just one axis because then it will distort the shape. So it really depends on what you're working on at the time. When I've done my scaling, I need to look at rotating. So I'm going to make this a bit smaller. Rotating works in exactly the same way as scaling. So I press R to rotate, and if I just move the mouse around, it doesn't know really which direction it's rotating around. See that is not going to be very easy to rotate in a specific way. By the way, if you make a mistake, if I'm pressing R and I don't want to do this, if I press escape, which is at the top left of the keyboard, it'll go back to how it was. So first off, I'm going to rotate on the Z axis. So I pressed R and then Z. Now it's rotating around an up and down line. So it's rotating around the Z axis. If I want to rotate it around the Y axis, I can do that. Or rotate around the X axis, I can do that. You'll notice that it's not around the X axis of where the cube started, it's where it is now. It's like shooting a line straight through it. If I pressed X a second time, then it will go through the ends of the shape. Okay, so same with Y, I press Y twice, it will then go through that direction of the shape. If I rotate Z twice, it changes slightly where it is. So if you do decide that you wanted it based on the original cube, you can press the letter twice. But actually, more often than not, just pressing rotate once, then X, Y, or Z will give you what you need to do. So I've rotated my shape now. Now's a good time to pause the video, do some scaling, do some rotating, learn how those bits work. Okay, I'm going to delete my cube now, and I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3 cubes. Now, what I did there, to select all 3 of them, I selected one, then held down Shift and selected the next 2 by right-clicking on them. And that meant they were all selected, so if I wanted to move them all together, I'd be able to do that. So now I've got 3 cubes. On top of these 3 cubes, I want 3 things. On this cube, I'm going to put a torus. A torus is kind of like the donut shape. On this cube, I'm going to put the monkey. I'm going to rotate him so he's actually looking towards us. And on this cube over here, I'm going to put a UV sphere. There we go. Now, your target to complete this video is to have a scene that looks exactly like this. 3 cubes, one with a torus on top, one with a monkey on top, and one with a ball on top. Don't worry if they're not perfect, if they're not exactly millimeter on top of the cubes, that is absolutely fine. But this is how I would like it to look for the end of the first video. So good luck, and when this is complete, we'll move on to the second video.